Welcome back. Tonight I have 3 scary stories for you. Stories you won't soon forget. Lock your doors, turn off the lights, and listen carefully. My name is Alex Thompson, and I'm 28 years old. What I'm about to share happened on a fateful night, one that still haunts my dreams. It was a chilly night last November, the type of night where the fog crawls in and envelops everything in a blanket of silence. I had just finished a long drive after visiting an old friend, and my fuel gauge was flirting dangerously close to empty. Reluctantly, I pulled into a secluded gas station, not knowing that I was about to experience something inexplicable. As I stepped out of my car, the first thing I noticed was how eerily quiet it was. The only sounds were the soft hum of the fuel pumps and the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. The gas station was one of those places that seemed trapped in time, an old, forgotten relic with peeling paint and dusty windows. There was only one other vehicle in the lot, an ancient pickup truck with a rusty bumper. I approached the gas pump and began filling my tank. As the fuel poured into my car, I glanced around, subtly hoping to see someone, the clerk, a fellow traveler, anyone. But all I could see were shadows and the faint glow of the gas station sign. That's when I noticed the cashier, a figure leaning against the counter watching me with a fixed gaze. I couldn't make out his features well due to the dim light, but there was something unsettling about his stillness. I figured it was just my imagination running wild, and decided to pay him no mind. But as I grabbed my wallet and headed inside the store to pay, I felt a chill creep down my spine. The store was dark, the fluorescent lights barely illuminating the aisles cluttered with old snacks and faded magazines. The air smelled stale, mixing with the diesel scent from outside. I hesitated at the entrance, noticing the peculiar arrangement of items. Ghostly, pale figures of toys seemed to stare back at me from the shelf, their eyes lifeless. It felt off-putting, but I shook my head to dismiss the thoughts and approached the cashier. "Just filling up for the night?" The cashier finally spoke, his voice gravelly and low. I glanced at his face, and for a brief moment I thought I saw something flicker in his eyes. A glint of recognition? I responded cautiously, "Yes, just passing through. Not a lot of places open this late, huh?" He chuckled softly, a sound that echoed in the lonely store. "Not many make it out here. You should consider yourself lucky." His gaze felt unnervingly penetrating. As I handed him the cash, I asked, "What do you mean by lucky?" He didn't respond immediately, just pointed toward a small dust-covered sign by the door. "Beware of what lurks after dark." I laughed nervously, but something told me he wasn't joking. I felt uneasy as an overwhelming sense of dread crept into my mind. After paying, I stepped back outside, the cold air hitting me like a wave. My heart raced as the fog began to thicken around the gas station, transforming the once dimly lit haven into a haunting abyss. Suddenly, the sounds of the night shifted. I froze as I heard whispers echoing through the thick fog. My instinct screamed for me to leave, and as I rushed to my car, I glanced back towards the station. The cashier was gone, replaced by an unsettling emptiness. Just before I reached my car, I felt an intense heaviness in the air. It was as if shadows from the fog began to seep into reality, forming shapes and figures behind me. I turned around in horror to see a dark silhouette rise from the ground, slowly morphing into what looked disturbingly familiar. It was a version of myself, mirroring my actions with a twisted grin. Panic surged in me as I bolted to the driver's side, fumbling with the keys. The duplicates from the darkness began to multiply, each one grinning menacingly. They echoed my every move but were cloaked in malice. I stumbled into my car, slamming the door shut. The engine roared to life, and I could hardly think. My eyes darted to the rearview mirror, preparing to escape this nightmare when I saw him, the cashier, standing there in the fog with a knowing smile, as if he orchestrated everything. I sped out of that cursed gas station, too afraid to look back. My heart raced as I drove into the night, the echoes of horror still reverberating in my mind. Even now, I am haunted by what I witnessed. It wasn't just a haunting gas station, it was a mirror reflecting the darkness within all of us. Years have gone by, but I still avoid gas stations late at night, because you never know what or who might be lurking in the shadows, waiting to turn you into one of them. It was a chilly December night, and I, Maria, found myself in the most unsettling situation of my life. At 32, I had my fair share of late-night grocery runs, but this one felt different from the moment I stepped into the supermarket. The fluorescent lights hummed a haunting tune, casting shadows that danced like ghosts across the shelves. A strange chill settled in the air, but with the temperature dropping outside, I tried to brush it off. As I moved through the aisles, a deafening silence engulfed me. No cheerful chattering, no rustle of shopping bags, just the sound of my cart squeaking as I pushed it forward. I could almost feel eyes watching me from the corners, but each glance revealed nothing but empty shelves. The supermarket, usually buzzing with life, felt like a graveyard. I reached for a box of cereal when I heard it, a faint sound like the shuffling of feet. My heart raced. Turning sharply, I found nothing but the empty aisle behind me. "Get a grip, Maria," I whispered to myself. I laughed nervously. It must be my imagination. Continuing my shopping, I felt an overwhelming sense of being watched. It was then I spotted a figure at the far end of the aisle. A tall man in a dark coat, his back turned to me. I felt a wave of unease wash over me. Should I approach him or turn back? The rational part of me said it was just another late-night shopper, but something instinctual told me otherwise. As I hesitated, the man suddenly turned, his face obscured by the shadows. "Are you the last customer?" he asked, his voice a low whisper that sent chills racing down my spine. My stomach dropped. Why did he seem to know that I was alone? I'm just shopping," I stuttered, inching my cart backward. The atmosphere thickened as he took a small step closer. I could feel an unseen presence wrapping around me, clawing at the edges of my sanity. Before I could respond, the lights flickered violently, plunging the aisle into darkness. Panic surged through me and I turned to flee. My cart toppled over in my haste, and the sound of rattling cans echoed in the eerie silence. I ran aimlessly through the murky aisles, my heart pounding in my ears. I could hear footsteps behind me, steady and unyielding. Whenever I dared to glance back, there he was, the man stalking me like prey, I quickly ducked down one aisle, hiding behind a display of snacks, praying he wouldn't find me. Desperation surged through my veins, and a sense of dread hung thick in the air. I could hear my own breath mingling with the haunting silence, creating a sickening rhythm that felt like it would give me away. "Maria!" he called out, his voice dripping with mockery. "You should have left when you had the chance. You know, I've been waiting for you." A chill slithered down my spine. How did he know my name? All at once, the world around me seemed to tilt, and the truth poured in like ice water. It wasn't just about me being the last customer, it was personal. My hands trembled as I clutched my phone, the last line of defense against whatever madness this man had planned. "You see," he continued, taking a step forward, "the supermarket, it has a history. Many who wander in after hours don't leave." A gleam of madness flickered in his eyes. "But you're special. The last customer. The final piece in a long, dark game." Suddenly, everything clicked. The missing persons, the whispers about the past of this very supermarket. I wasn't just being hunted, I was part of a terrifying ritual tied to this forsaken place. I stood tall, adrenaline coursing through me. "What do you want?" I demanded, surprising myself with the strength in my voice. "You think you can just take me?" He laughed, a chilling sound that echoed off the shelves. "But it's not just about me taking you, you're already part of it." In a sudden bold move, I lunged for my phone, flicking on the flashlight as I shone it directly into his face. It had an unexpected effect. He recoiled as if burned. Without looking back, I sprinted toward the entrance. My heart raced as I pushed through the doors, the frigid night air hitting my face like a slap. I glanced back, and to my horror, the man was gone, but the darkness of the supermarket loomed behind me, a silent promise that I would never forget. Now, I sit here, still trembling from the encounter. Was it real, or was my mind playing tricks on me? The thought of that dark figure lurking in the shadows of that supermarket fills me with dread. I promised myself never to return there, but I can't shake the feeling that he's still waiting for the next unfortunate soul to wander into his domain. My name is Alex Turner, and I'm 28 years old. Working as a night shift accountant at one of the most desolate office buildings in the downtown district has its perks, but the isolation can often be unbearable. On most nights, my only company consists of the dull hum of fluorescent lights and a computer screen that seems to flicker in sync with my unease. But one fateful night, the calmness would shatter in horrifying ways. As I stared at the clock, its hand slowly approaching midnight, I felt an eerie chill crawl down my spine. The building was empty, apart from the occasional rustle of papers or the distant echo of a rat scuttling through the walls. Devoid of hope, I focused on the piles of financial reports before me, determined to finish the workday as swiftly as possible. Just as I took a deep breath, the phone rang. I remember glancing at the caller ID, an unknown number. I hesitated, a mix of intrigue and apprehension coursing through me. Against my better judgment, I picked up the receiver. "Hello?" I said, my voice shaky. Nothing but silence greeted my ears, followed by a soft, almost inaudible whisper. "Alex, is that you?" The voice sent shivers down my spine. It sounded familiar yet distorted, like an echo from a long-lost memory. I nearly dropped the phone when I recognized the voice. It belonged to my deceased colleague Sarah, who had tragically passed away last winter. After a brief pause, I mustered the courage to respond. "Sarah? Is that really you?" A cold sweat formed on my forehead as she spoke again. "I need you to listen carefully. You're in danger." My heart raced as I instinctively scanned the empty office behind me, a sudden urge to flee overcoming my senses. I could feel my pulse quicken. "What do you mean? How are you?" But before I could finish my sentence, the line went dead. Just like that, I was alone again, trapped in the suffocating silence of the office. I thought about the incident, of the day we lost her. A tragic accident, they claimed. But now I found it hard to shake the feeling that something sinister lay deep within the enigma of her death. Fueled by dread and an insatiable curiosity, I decided to investigate. Was it possible that Sarah had returned to warn me of something? I quickly grabbed my jacket and headed toward the exit, the flickering lights casting eerie shadows behind me. Each step felt heavier, as if the building itself was resisting my exit. I approached the security room and started scanning the footage. What I found, however, was chilling. Footage of Sarah's last moments. She'd been arguing with our boss, a heated exchange that ended as she stormed out to her tragic fate. As I flipped through the clips, a sudden realization hit me. It wasn't just about her past. I noticed another figure following her. Someone I hadn't recognized until now. My stomach dropped when I spotted my boss entering the frame, and a shadow of a smile danced across his face when she left. A chill raced down my spine. What if he was the reason she died? The office felt increasingly claustrophobic, as if it were alive, watching me. The faint sound of the ringing phone broke my concentration. I hesitated before picking it up, dread pooling in my gut. "Alex, you're running out of time," Sarah's distorted voice echoed ominously. I felt compelled to confront my boss, to uncover the truth. Just as I stood up, a loud crash echoed through the office. Papers flew everywhere, and I turned to find my boss standing in the doorway, his eyes dark and unyielding. "You shouldn't have gone digging where you don't belong," he said, his voice low, instilling a profound sense of fear within me. But then, in a twist of fate, I suddenly realized something. Sarah wasn't there just to warn me. She was guiding me, and through my fear, I felt her presence solidifying at my side. "You need to remember," she whispered in my ear. "He isn't who he seems." In a flash of fury, I grabbed the evidence from the security footage, waving it in my boss's face. "I know the truth. You can't silence me." With adrenaline surging through my veins, I ran past him, my heart pounding like a war drum. I could feel the walls closing in, but I bolted for the office's entrance, knowing this wasn't just about me anymore. It was for Sarah and everyone else silenced by his deceit. When I finally escaped into the cool night air, the weight lifted. I felt her presence pushing me forward as I dialed the police to expose the truth about my boss. The haunting whispers faded into the night, a reminder that I would never be alone again. To this day, I remember that cold night as the beginning of my new life, the life where fear would not reign. I learned to never dismiss a call just because it's from an empty office, for sometimes those whispers can unlock the doors of truth, if you dare to listen.